On our planet, many countries face tough situations, but perhaps none quite like this one. It's a country many see as the richest in natural resources in the world, with the most beautiful women. Yet it's also in such a huge social crisis that its local money is worth less than the paper it's printed on. In this new video, we're going to dive deeper into Venezuela, one of the most beautiful, extreme, and also fascinating countries on Earth. Venezuela, the country with the biggest oil reserves on Earth, the place with the most gold in America, and the fourth most natural gas in the world. It's a region so stunningly beautiful that it holds the tallest and most amazing waterfall there is, with a history that will surely surprise you. There are mountains untouched since prehistoric times, and jungles like the Amazon, where tribes still live today without contact with the outside world and without wearing clothes. It's a place full of unique things, like having won more beauty pageants than any other country. This beauty has become a true national pride, so much so that the government itself offers help for beauty classes, and even for cosmetic improvements like nose jobs and breast implants. This natural and cultural beauty, unique in the world, stands in contrast to the problems of its people. Because this huge wealth is held by just a few who claim to act for the good of the country, all while making choices that change the lives of millions without answering to anyone. A contradiction that also shows up in a tiny, scary animal able to get into men's private parts and cause some of the worst pain you can imagine. These current realities have a surprising link to this country's past, because it was here centuries ago that European settlers found the man-eaters. Pay attention and don't miss this video, because discovering Venezuela with us will surprise you more than you can imagine. Let's start. Hidden deep within the planet's thickest and most untamed jungle, right in the heart of Latin America, lies Venezuela. It's a natural treasure so extreme that many see it as the world's richest country in resources. But it also has a beauty so amazing it takes your breath away if you're lucky enough to see it. Venezuela is in the north of South America. It's bordered by the Caribbean Sea to the north, Guyana to the east, Brazil to the south, and Colombia to the west. Its huge size and varied geography make it a truly special country. You can find everything from the Amazon jungles to the wide-open plains of the Gran Sabana, the Andes Mountains in Merida, the Caribbean coasts, and the deserts of Médanos de Coro. Venezuela is one of the most biodiverse countries on Earth, with thousands of plant and animal species, many of which are only found there. Among its animal treasures, you'll find the capybara, the world's largest rodent, which can weigh over 130 pounds. There are also impressive reptiles like the green anaconda, the biggest snake on the planet, which can grow up to 40 feet long. Plus, it's home to unique birds, amphibians, and fish that only live in its rivers and jungles. From the grand scarlet macaw to the tiny, brightly colored frogs on the tepuis. Venezuelan wildlife combines size, color, and rarity in a show unlike anywhere else on Earth. Its population is over 30 million people, though most live in cities like Caracas, Maracaibo, Valencia, and Barquisimeto. Meanwhile, the dense Amazon jungles remain mostly untouched and unexplored, home to tribes that still have very little contact with the outside world. Venezuela's natural wealth is stunning. Its mountains, rivers, and waterfalls look like they're from another planet. Among them is Angel Falls, the world's highest waterfall. Its majesty leaves anyone who sees it completely amazed, and the story behind its name holds an epic adventure that will surely surprise you when you hear it in just a few minutes. But it's not just beauty that defines this country and its wealth. Venezuela is a powerhouse of natural resources in the world, a place whose abundance could have ensured prosperity for generations. Its rich oil, gas, and mineral deposits make it a country with almost unmatched economic potential. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves on the planet, a fact that has put it at the center of the global economy since the early 20th century. The first modern oil discovery was in 1914. For decades, oil made Venezuela a prosperous country. The money from oil allowed its citizens to enjoy a great standard of living with infrastructure, education and services that only a few developed countries in the world had, but everything would change over time. And Venezuela's wealth isn't just about oil. The country has the largest gold reserves in America. This abundance goes back to colonial times when Spanish explorers arrived looking for treasures. Also, Venezuela is the fourth country with the most natural gas in the world, another resource that could have provided decades of energy and economic prosperity. However, the country's potential has been shaped by history, politics, and the concentration of wealth. To better understand this, we need to look at its past, from the original tribes to the arrival of European colonizers and today's leaders. Before Christopher Columbus and his expeditions arrived, Venezuela was home to various indigenous tribes like the Caribs, Pemon, Yanomami, and Guayu. They lived by fishing, hunting, and farming, and had a deep respect for nature. These societies had such fascinating and unique ways of life that they are surprising even by our modern standards. The Caribs, for example, gave us the word we now know as cannibals. This all comes from the stories of European explorers who came to these lands and met these tribes. In their writings, they described war rituals where defeated enemies were treated in a symbolic way, which led Europeans to believe their flesh was eaten. However, there's no proof that this actually happened. It was most likely symbolic and ceremonial practices meant to inspire fear and strengthen community bonds, ensuring their survival against outside threats. These traditions, far from being just gruesome, showed the strength, strategy, and determination of these communities to protect their land and people, leaving a mark that still fascinates and sparks mystery in those who study the past of these societies. Today, some indigenous Venezuelan societies like the Yanomami continue to live as they did centuries ago, surrounded by nature, hidden deep in the Amazon rainforest. They maintain traditions that might seem controversial to those living in urban areas such as polygamy, where one man has multiple wives, or living without clothes in certain situations as part of their connection to the earth and their community rituals. These practices are part of a deep social and cultural system where survival, family, and spirituality come together in a way we've probably lost in modern societies. Furthermore, these tribes have developed amazing knowledge in natural medicine, river navigation, and initiation rites, showing that cultural diversity and adapting to the environment can be as extraordinary as Venezuela's wildlife and geography itself. Christopher Columbus faced these geographical challenges in 1498 when he arrived on the Venezuelan coast during his third trip to the New World. Despite this, the first Spanish settlements quickly began to form, mainly attracted by gold and cocoa, resources already known to be valuable. The origin of this country's name is closely tied to its colonial past. It was Amerigo Vespucci, the explorer who gave his name to the American continent, who, when observing the indigenous palafitos on Lake Maracaibo, those houses built over the water, was reminded of the Italian city of Venice, famous for its canals. Inspired by this similarity, he decided to name these lands Venezuela, which literally means Little Venice. Although Europeans were already looking for gold, cocoa, and other resources, the true extent of the country's wealth wasn't discovered until centuries later, when oil drilling began to transform the Venezuelan economy and society. The main language is Spanish because of this past, but more than 30 indigenous languages still survive in the country, reflecting its cultural and ethnic diversity. A mix of races has also created what many consider one of the most beautiful populations on the planet, especially its women, who have won many international competitions. But before we talk about beauty and culture, it's important to continue with its recent history to understand why so much wealth hasn't meant prosperity for everyone. Even though Venezuela could have been one of the richest countries on earth, the concentration of power and the decisions made by its leaders greatly limited this potential. As we've told you, for much of the 20th century, Venezuela was a rich country in every way, and so were its people. After oil was discovered and extracted, Venezuela enjoyed years of relative stability and prosperity. Its citizens had access to education, healthcare, and a standard of living that many countries envied. However, in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the arrival of certain leaders and their control over resources began to change the economy. Starting with recent governments, policies were put in place that drastically changed the economy, leading to hyperinflation and shortages that directly affected the daily lives of millions of Venezuelans. Today, even though Venezuela remains one of the most resource-rich nations on the planet, most of its people face economic and social hardships, often extreme, while wealth remains concentrated in a few hands. To better understand this situation, it's good to grasp what hyperinflation is and what it means with a real-world example. Inflation is the general and ongoing increase in the prices of goods and services in a country. But when this increase speeds up out of control, we call it hyperinflation. This phenomenon can destroy people's buying power in just a few months or even weeks. In Venezuela, hyperinflation began to accelerate in the 21st century, when the government put in place price controls and massively increased the amount of money printed to cover growing public spending. What happened was that the amount of money circulating grew much faster than the production of goods and services. This caused prices to skyrocket at rates that were impossible to keep up with. To understand it better, imagine this. Something you could buy with 1 bolivar before, now needed thousands of bolivars. The exchange rate with the dollar, for example, dropped hugely. Back then, $1 was worth 4 bolivars, while during the worst period of inflation, $1 could be worth over 1 million bolivars. The result of hyperinflation was devastating, leading to situations where, to buy a loaf of bread, people literally needed suitcases full of cash, or drastic price changes, like a loaf of bread that cost 10 bolivars one day could cost 10,000 the next, and the following month, millions of bolivars were needed. Hyperinflation didn't just affect, and still doesn't just affect, food prices. Everything from transportation to electricity started to increase at dizzying speeds. Citizens, who could once cover their basic needs with their monthly salary, soon found that their wages weren't even enough for bread and milk. To understand it better, currently, the official exchange rate in Venezuela is about 146 bolivars for $1, according to the Central Bank of Venezuela. However, the monthly minimum wage remains at 130 bolivars, a figure similar to what it was decades ago when $1 was worth 4 bolivars. This means that at the current exchange rate, the minimum wage is worth less than this huge difference reflects the aftermath of years of economic crisis, where inflation and devaluation have drastically eroded people's purchasing power. As a result, a worker earning the monthly minimum wage in Venezuela of 130 bolivars can only buy a fraction of basic products like food or medicine without relying on additional income. The hyperinflation phenomenon also changed how people viewed money, because holding local currency no longer made sense. Many started saving in dollars, euros, or even durable goods like non-perishable foods and appliances that held their value better. Transportation also became an economic challenge. A ticket that once cost a few bolivars could demand thousands or millions of bolivars over months, forcing citizens to walk long distances or share rides to cut down on expenses. The paradox of living in such a resource-rich country became increasingly clear. While Venezuela has the largest oil reserves on the planet, abundant gold, and enough natural gas to supply vast regions, daily life became irrationally expensive. A clear example is the price of gasoline compared to basic necessities. For years, and still in some cases today, a bottle of water could cost more than filling up a car with gas, a situation that seems impossible anywhere else in the world. Businesses were forced to adjust their prices several times a day. Low-value bills lost their usefulness, and a parallel market for foreign currency and bartering emerged, keeping the economy running in an improvised way. Education also suffered. Schools and universities, especially public ones, faced shortages of materials, staff cuts, and difficulties maintaining infrastructure. Many young people saw their opportunities to study and access job opportunities limited. The healthcare system partially collapsed, with hospitals lacking essential medicines, equipment, and sufficient staff. This led citizens to resort to private solutions or community support networks to survive illnesses that were once controllable. Despite all these difficulties, creativity and solidarity have allowed millions of Venezuelans to keep moving forward. The adaptation to hyperinflation and the resilience of Venezuelans is extraordinary. Many have turned to the internet and social media to earn income through freelance jobs, online sales, or by taking advantage of currency exchange rates as a means of survival. Others have looked for alternatives in cryptocurrencies, family remittances, or bartering within their communities. All of this happens in a country that, because of its potential, could be one of the most successful on the planet. The paradox of Venezuela shows how rich resources don't always mean a good life for its people. While there's plenty of oil, gold, and gas, daily life becomes incredibly expensive, and the economy is a constant struggle. A big part of Venezuela's current economic situation comes from a mix of inside and outside reasons. On one hand, international rules and punishments have made it hard for the country to sell its resources and get important goods. This affects what's available in stores and causes shortages. On the other hand, how resources are managed and the political choices made inside the country have also changed how wealth is shared. When resources are held by only a few groups and there aren't good ways to check on things, most people don't get to enjoy the benefits of the country's many resources. This mix of outside and inside factors explains why, even though Venezuela is super rich in oil, minerals, and nature, Venezuelans face daily money problems that make it one of the hardest places to live in the world. A country of extremes that often borders on the unbelievable. Because here, despite the extreme difficulties the population faces, the government not only pays for women to take beauty classes, but also helps them with money for surgeries like nose jobs or breast implants. This is a surprising reality that's closely tied to the fact that this country has been seen as the place where the most beautiful women on earth live. Venezuela is known worldwide for winning more beauty pageants than any other country. It has won a total of 24 titles in the 4 biggest contests: 7 Miss Universe, 6 Miss World, 9 Miss International, and 2 Miss Earth. This success is due to a mix of things like the country's diverse people and cultures, how much its people care about their appearance, and the influence of its warm weather and beautiful landscapes. And to stay at the top, the country has put in place policies that support training in modeling, beauty care, and plastic surgery. The government itself has even paid for beauty classes and surgical procedures, including nose jobs and breast implants, to promote beauty as a national value. These efforts have been part of a plan to make Venezuela known as the nation with the most beautiful women on the planet. However, this focus on beauty has caused a lot of arguments and discussions, because despite the money problems the country faces, many women have used these subsidies. This means that for some people in this country, physical appearance is valued more than general well-being. Instead of fixing problems like poverty or education, it seems some leaders have put looks first as a way to make the country look good. This is a surprising reality, considering that while many Venezuelans can't afford to study or eat well, others get help to change their physical appearance. Venezuela is known for having one of the highest rates of cosmetic surgeries per person in the world, especially for breast enlargement. It's estimated that in recent years, breast enlargement procedures in this country have gone over 85,000 per year. In Venezuela, cosmetic surgery, especially breast enlargement, has become a common practice and in many cases a family tradition. It's common for mothers to even advise their daughters to get these types of procedures as a way to improve their appearance, and because of that, their chances in social and work life. This has been called a coming-of-age ritual in Venezuelan society by some. It seems like nonsense if you look at it from another angle, especially with the poverty and difficulties in Venezuelan society. But it makes sense if you understand that the government supports it with money, and all this gives young Venezuelan women chances for a better life in their future. We'll dive deeper into this reality of beauty later in this video, because the story of finding the highest and most beautiful natural waterfall on Earth is connected to an amazing adventure in human history that we're about to discover. But before that, we want to ask you, would you get a subsidized surgery like in Venezuela? What do you think about it and the beauty of its women? Does the reality of life in Venezuela seem crazy to you? What would you do to change things? Pause the video and leave us your comment. You know that's the best way to support this channel, so we can keep bringing you interesting content like this every week. So, thank you. And now we're going to uncover one of the most epic yet little-known adventure stories in the world. A story that has a lot to do with the beauty of Venezuela and its most famous natural waterfall, Angel Falls. The highest waterfall in the world. So high that before it even hits the ground, some of the water turns into mist. If you hear that name, Angel Falls, your first thought will probably make you believe it's named for religious reasons, or maybe an old story tied to colonization. That seems logical, right? After all, angel brings to mind heavens, deities, legends, or realities connected to Spain or the language of Venezuela. But nothing could be further from the truth. And as you're about to see, the real story is much more surprising. The year was the 1930s, and an American pilot named Jimmy Angel was flying through the skies of southern Venezuela. Jimmy wasn't looking for angels or saints, and his last name was pronounced in English, not Spanish. He was looking for gold. Yes, even though his last name would later give its name to this incomparable natural treasure, Jimmy was only looking for gold lost in the jungle and hidden among the towering tepuis, those huge table mountains so mythical in Venezuela that seem to come from another world. Tepuis are enormous rock plateaus with vertical walls and flat tops that rise like suspended islands above the Venezuelan jungle, especially since some of them are often suspended above the clouds. These unique geological formations have remained practically untouched for millions of years due to their difficult access, creating isolated ecosystems found nowhere else. Their almost supernatural appearance and complete isolation make them mysterious and fascinating places, worthy of legends and adventurous explorations, like the one Jimmy Angel found himself in. One day, as he flew over the great Venezuelan savanna, the name given to this region of plateaus and tepuis that seemed to come from another planet, he saw something that left him speechless. From the top of the tepui, known as Auyan Tepui, an entire river plunged into the void in a leap that seemed to touch the sky but never reach the ground. Fascinated, Jimmy decided to land his plane on top of this imposing mountain, and here's the twist no one expected. His landing was a disaster. The plane got stuck in the mud, stranded on top of this seemingly unreachable tepui. And so, what seemed like a glorious discovery turned into a natural trap for him. Jimmy, his wife, and two companions were stuck for 11 days, hundreds of meters up, battling jungles, swamps, and cliffs, not knowing if they would make it back. But they finally managed to descend and tell of the wonders they had discovered. And that's how what seemed to end in tragedy became a legend that would later impress the whole world. The story spread over the days, and that's how the highest natural waterfall on the planet was named after Jimmy Angel. And not because he was religious or mystical. The name of the most beautiful and enormous waterfall on the planet has nothing to do with heavenly angels. It simply honors the man who, almost by accident, made it known to the world. Although Jimmy never found the gold he was looking for, he unintentionally gave the world a much greater and eternal treasure. Angel Falls, the highest waterfall on the planet, a nearly 1 kilometer drop, 976 meters from the top of Ollantaytambo. For the indigenous Paimon people, by the way, this waterfall already had a name. They called it Kerapakupai Meru, the jump from the deepest place, a reminder that nature holds secrets that even gold cannot buy. Enjoying Angel Falls isn't easy, just like it wasn't easy for the hero of this story. Getting there requires days of travel through dense jungles, winding rivers, and rough terrain. But the effort is worth it, because the waterfall is a natural wonder that seems unreal. The height is so great that upon reaching the ground, the water seems to vanish into the air before touching the earth, enveloping the landscape in a veil of mist that seems straight out of a dream. If you like this story, please give us a like so we can keep exploring and creating videos like this every week. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to discover the world's secrets and wonders like you've never seen them before. Thank you. But the adventure in Venezuela doesn't stop there. Another gem of the great Venezuelan savanna is Mount Roraima, a majestic tepui, just like Ollantaytambo, which rises like an island above the sky. This plateau is so amazing that it inspired the writer Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes, to write The Lost World. In his novel, he tells that a part of the South American plateau is still inhabited by prehistoric creatures, and some locals believe that this story might have some truth to it. When observing Mount Roraima from the sky, one understands why these formations inspire stories of fantasy. The tepuis of the great Venezuelan savanna look like real floating islands because their tops rise above the clouds, and anyone lucky enough to observe them from above can probably enjoy one of the most beautiful natural landscapes on the planet. The nature of Venezuela is as unique as its tepuis and its majestic waterfalls that seem to spring from the sky. And perhaps that is why, in this country, a natural phenomenon occurs that is unparalleled on the planet. An eternal lightning that illuminates the sky night after night, year after year. This is the Catatumbo lightning on Lake Maracaibo, a spectacle that defies the logic of meteorology. In this place, thunderstorms occur almost every night of the year for hours. And the most surprising thing is that often, without strong thunderclaps, it is the lightning that paints the sky blue and white. This phenomenon can be seen for hundreds of kilometers, becoming an impressive spectacle, both for locals and for tourists and scientists. NASA has recognized it as the global epicenter of thunderstorms, with an average of 300 storms per year and a total of 1,600,000 annual lightning strikes. Venezuelans know it as another of their natural treasures, a display of light that inspires legends and admiration, especially during the rainy season from November to April. But perhaps stranger than the Catatumbo lightning is discovering a ghost skyscraper in the middle of Caracas, a place that seems straight out of a dystopian movie. This is the Tower of David, the tallest unoccupied office tower in the world. Originally planned as a symbol of modernity and progress, the construction remained unfinished and abandoned until thousands of families occupied it, transforming it into a true vertical city. There, entire floors function as housing, shops, and community spaces, creating a unique urban phenomenon, a tower that combines modern architecture and social improvisation, strikingly reflecting the contradictions of life in Venezuela. We're nearing the end of this journey through one of the most incredible countries on Earth. And as we think about its landscapes and natural treasures, we come across a reality that's both extraordinary and, for many, terrifying. One of the most feared animals is a tiny fish known as the candiru. This small fish lives in the Amazon rivers of Venezuela and Brazil, and it can cause some of the most intense pain in the world. The reason is that it's attracted to the urea found in urine. This means that if a man urinates directly into these waters, the candiru can be drawn to the flow of his urine and even try to enter the urethra, which means getting into the male reproductive system. The pain it causes is sharp and throbbing due to the mechanical irritation from its spines and the pressure as the fish tries to get in. That's why many locals and visitors know the precaution. They avoid urinating directly into rivers where this fish lives, or they cover their private parts when they're in the water. Removing a candiru isn't easy and needs immediate medical attention because any delay can lead to serious problems. Even though cases are very rare, this fish's reputation has created an almost legendary respect among those who live in and explore the Amazonian waters. Thinking about it, would you dare to swim in these waters? It would be great to read your thoughts in the comments. Thank you. This small but fearsome animal reminds us that in a country full of wonders, there are also unique creatures that demand respect and caution. Another creature that will surely cause panic when you first see it, especially if you don't know what it is the capybara, the largest rodent on the planet. It's native to several regions of Venezuela and much of South America. It can grow to be over 1 meter tall and weigh up to 60 kilograms. Its size and imposing look can scare those who see it for the first time, as it looks like a giant rat, even though it's completely herbivorous and peaceful. With its dangers, its quirks, and its amazing natural beauty, rich culture, and the fascinating history of the country and its people, Venezuela is a unique natural wonder that you'll probably want to learn more about. That's why we've done a lot of research to tell you how to get there and enjoy this magical country. If you're traveling from the Americas, there are direct flights to Caracas and other big cities from countries like the United States, Brazil, or Colombia. From Europe, the most common way is to fly through Madrid or Amsterdam, with connecting flights that take you to Maiquetía International Airport, near Caracas. Once in Venezuela, getting around is pretty easy thanks to a network of domestic flights and buses between important cities. To explore remote areas like the Gran Sabana or the Tepuis, the most common way is to mix ground transport with local flights to small airstrips near the natural parks. Venezuela is one of the cheapest countries in the world for visitors using US dollars or euros because of the superinflation you've heard about, though it's always a good idea to check the current exchange rate. For example, a simple meal for 2 people might cost around $10, and a night in a basic hotel could be about